In today's show, it's a season review for Scoot Henderson. We talk what went right and what went wrong for Scoot in year one, and we look ahead to what's next in his progression and what his ceiling can still be. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. As Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we are rolling along with our Scoot Henderson season review. We've done a couple of these, DeAndre Ayton, Shaedon Sharpe, and now Scoot Henderson, as we do our own version of Blazers exit interviews, talking about what guys did, and then to look back a little bit, and then we will look ahead. We'll also revisit my preseason predictions with Michael from the past, way back what I said about Scoot in September. And let me tell you, I was taking a big old swig of the Kool-Aid back then. Let's talk Scoot's rookie season. We'll kind of start with a recap of year one, and then we'll move forward, transition to looking forward later in the show. On the year, Scoot averaged 14 points, 3.1 boards, 5.4 assists. He shot 38.5% from the field, 32.5% from three, and 81.9%, we'll call it 82% from the free throw line. It started out bad. I don't think there's any other way to put it. The Scoot's first 5 games in the NBA were very bad. They gave him the keys. He played a part of one game in Summer League, like 13 minutes in a game in Summer League. He looked really good. He didn't look very good in preseason, but it was clear that the Blazers were invested in him. They wanted him to be the starting point guard, and they kind of made sure that was his role. They gave him the keys early from night one as their starting point guard, their anointed starter, and he struggled. He was bad. He was bad. Over his first 5 games, he averaged 9 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, and 4.5 turnovers. 3 assists and 4.5 turnovers. That's not great. He shot 34.8% from the field, under 35% from the field, 2 of 21 from 3 over his first 5 games. He was awful. Historically bad. One of the sort of the worst big volume starts in recent NBA history. I don't think there's any other way to slice it. Then he rolls his ankle, sprains his right ankle, and he misses 9 games. And when he came back from that, he was better. He was not a perfect player. He wasn't even a good player. He was still largely a negative player, but he was unquestionably, he came back from that injury. They kind of, I think Chauncey Billups did a good thing when Scoot came back, is that he, instead of just saying, hey, you're going to absolutely be the guy. Once it was clear, and he played a bunch of games as the starter, Chauncey Billups kind of changed up. He said, okay, you're actually a bench player now. The starting lineup, you're not your best self. I'm sure it was tough on Scoot to struggle. He would never admit it. He's very, very, very protected about admitting sort of personal struggles in the media. The little bit I've talked to him, and he puts on a very confident facade, even though I don't know if I believe that is what exists behind the scenes. And certainly just struggling a lot is going to rock anyone's confidence. And Chauncey Billups kind of alluded to it. And then in his exit interview, Scoot Henderson was like, "Nah, my confidence was never down. Why would I lose confidence in myself?" I don't know, man. So we all do that from time to time. That's why. But Chauncey Billups moved him out of the starting lineup, put him back in a bench role. And then heading into the All-Star break, Scoot put together his best stretch of the season. In the 6 games heading into the All-Star break, once his kind of role had shifted, and at this point he's played almost half a season heading into the break. He's played, I believe he passed the 41 game mark heading into the break, even with the time that he missed. But those 6 games heading into the break, he averaged 18.3 points and 5.3 assists and shot 43% from the field, but 40% from 3, and he was getting to the line. He shot during that that 6-game stretch, he averaged 6.5 free throw attempts a game and shot 95% from the free throw line. Like that's probably the best version of Scoot. That 6-game stretch, probably undoubtedly the best he played all year long. That included the first game that he ever shot above 50% from the field on more than 10 attempts. January 31st against Damian Lillard and the Milwaukee Bucks at the Moda Center. He went 6 of 11, had 15 points off the bench, and he had 15 and 4 dimes off the bench. And like, that was the first game. That was the first time. That was his 39th game. That was the first time in his NBA career that he had taken more than 10 shots and made more than half of them. He'd made more than he had a 4 for 4 night and a 3 for 4 night. He had a 5 for 10 night here and there, but like, just to make more than half your shots on more than 10 attempts, just like a game where you make shots. Scoot damn near took half a season, 39 NBA games to get there. The efficiency just never really came around for him. Then he, goes into the All-Star break. He missed a couple games with a foot sprain. Then he comes back, plays the last 2 before the All-Star break, and he goes into the All-Star break on playing the best stretch that he's played, even with missing a little couple time. He played 6 of the final 8 games heading into the break. Then he comes out of the break and he has a groin injury. And he misses 8 games coming out of the All-Star break. And it is like a bummer. It's a bummer for your boy podcasting too, because the Blazers are about to punt on the season with real commitment to not caring about the games whatsoever, or as they might call it, prioritizing development. Prioritizing losing, prioritizing ping pong balls. They're about to really just pull the plug and hide Jeremy Grant in a closet somewhere and tell Malcolm Brogdon that he can never wear a jersey ever again. And then you don't get Scoot for the first 8 games coming out of the break, almost 3 weeks. It's like, dang it. And then he comes back, and over the final 19 games, this was a better version of Scoot. Was it a perfect version of Scoot? No, but this was, that 6-game stretch is probably the smallest sort of individual, really solid stretch. But those final 19 games was the best he'd played over any sustained stretch. If you put all those together, that's the final 25 games. But I think with the All-Star break and missing weeks after the All-Star break, I think breaking them up is maybe more a realistic way to analyze them. But slice them any way you want, baby. It doesn't matter. In those final 19 games, he averaged 16, 3.5, and 7 dimes. That's 7 assists. 16 and 7 assists is 16.5 and 7 assists is okay, yeah, this dude can play. He still turned the ball over 4.5 times a night in those games. He still had some stinker nights at the end of the season when he had monster first halves and then 8 turnovers or 6 turnovers in the second half, 8 in a game, 9 turnovers in a game at the end of the year. But during that stretch, I think this is what Scoot you saw the vision of what he can be when the lines are a little less blurry. He shot 35% from 3 over that stretch, 82% from the free throw line on about 3 and some change attempts per game. 16 and 7. He's not going to be this prolific 30-point per game scorer, although he certainly has. He's got some low-hanging fruit that he could pick up to definitely score more points. But a guy who can make free throws, a guy who's not a terrible 3-point shooter, but struggles in other areas, particularly in the in-between game and really poorly at the rim. But I think you kind of saw it. Scoot's best game that he played all year long was probably the very last one he played against the Houston Rockets. He hit his first 6 3-pointers, couple prayers, banked one and hit one late clock, but take those out. Sure, he hit for his first 4 3-pointers in the first half. By his measurements, a great half. By anyone's measurements, a darn good one. That was probably his best. That was probably his best game of the season. It came at the very end, and then he didn't even play at the end of the game. He had 30. He didn't even play at the end of the game because they were like, okay, he's been playing too many minutes recently. We can't screw this thing up again. You're done for the rest of the year, and he didn't play in the final game of the season. And that is how it ended for Scoot. It didn't go out with a whimper, but because of the way the Blazers season is, I'll say constructed. It's constructed, right? Is that the final 10 games they're going to lose like all hell. So if there's any way to lose 15 of your final 17, they'll find a way to do it. Except a game against Charlotte, which maybe they'll regret winning. We shall see. But I think Scoot got better. I think that's undeniable. How much better, I think, is maybe in the eyes of the beholder, and I'll talk about that later in the show. But I think undeniably, certainly from the first 5 games when he was awful, but like I think he slowly progressed over the season, and the numbers show it. But also just like you can see it with your eyeballs, like just his the like kind of drives to nowhere, passes to nowhere, just trying to blast through someone's chest, right? It's like, I'm just going to gut to the rim. It's like, well, that dude's standing right in front of you, man. And that's why you dribbled it off your knee out of bounds, because you didn't get around him because he's waiting for you. And some of the decision-making where his feet would get hurried on pull-up jump shots, and he just takes one where he's just totally off balance. He kind of cut out some of that stuff. Still had flashes though, but cut out some of that stuff. And he had moments where you're like, oh yeah, like he's got a little juice to his game. Like he can do things. So what I want to talk about in the second segment is I want to revisit my predictions from September. Michael from the past will join us in the second segment and kind of talk about where Scoot landed this season and what that means for where he's headed in the future. Let's join me in the second segment and let's do that. But first, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. You know DoorDash because they can bring you food, they can bring you groceries right to your door, but they can also help you help your mom smile on Valentine's Day. You know, you can get stuff same day delivered to your mother's home with DoorDash. Maybe start with flowers or surprise her with gifts from brands she loves, or maybe, get her something a little more thoughtful and schedule it on a DoorDash for future deliveries. Whatever it is, Mother's Day's coming up. It's Mate's Wealth, and you can be prepared if you have DoorDash. You might already, like I said, use DoorDash for your sort of everyday needs or to get a yummy burrito delivered to your house, but you can also use it to be a wonderful son, daughter, child, what have you. So take advantage of DoorDash. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. Get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15+ on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. Today's show is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. It's a great twist on the classic game, and it's the thing that's going to bring out your competitive side. Look, if you are familiar with the traditional Monopoly, there's not much more that brings out the competitive heat in people than traditional Monopoly. And Monopoly Go is just a twist on the game you already love. It's been downloaded over 150 times. You can play on not one but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations from Las Vegas to the moon. Build up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is you can play with your friends. Look, 150 million people already downloaded. Chances are your friends already got it. You can charge them rent for staying in your iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly, but you can also heist their vaults for your riches. Plus, you can check the leaderboards to find out where you stack up as the biggest Monopoly tycoon. So, if your competitive side, if that scratches your itch, go for it. But you can also team up with your friends and people around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now for free on the App Store or on Google Play. All right. So I think Scoot Henderson's season was up and down, is sort of the colloquialism that we use. I think it was mostly down if we're being honest here, and I try to keep it a buck here. It wasn't like he was awful, but he was more bad than he was good. And in preparing for these shows, I go back and re-listen to and kind of cut up a version of my preseason like season previews. I do a preview for every player heading in, and then I play you on the sort of outro to see like what I got right and what I got wrong. And let me tell you, I was a Scoot believer. So let's cue up Michael from the past, and let me tell you how much this dude believed back in September and kind of what I got wrong and what I got a little bit right about Scoot, because I think it's telling kind of how things change and how our perception changed over a season. That's what, take it away, Michael from the past. For Scoot Henderson is that he hits the ground running. He is absolutely from the moment he steps on the court, he is just a walking, dribbling paint touch. Nobody can keep him out of the paint. The best case scenario is that he's a natural playmaker, and his advanced feel and vision and his mid-range touch on pull-up jumpers opens up his rim attacks, and he becomes the rare rookie to live at the free throw line. And his athleticism just immediately translates on both ends. The worst case scenario is that he's a teenager in the league. The worst case scenario is that he's a 19-year-old who isn't quite ready. The worst case scenario is that the outside shooting, which he struggled in the G League and it just isn't a skill that he's developed yet, just doesn't come around in year one. He doesn't get to the free throw line a whole bunch, and he's a serious negative on defense. That's the worst case scenario. I think Scoot pretty clearly... He pretty squarely hit that worst case scenario. He certainly didn't hit the ground running. He certainly wasn't ready to go from day one. And he didn't really string together like maybe like a stretch of games where it was like undeniably that he was like good without caveats, right? I think there were some games when he played, some stretches where he played well. Certainly, like I'm not trying to say he never had any good games, but I don't think he had like a 10 game stretch or even like an 8 game stretch where it's like, he played really well in all of these games without saying like for a 19-year-old, for a rookie, considering that he plays on the worst offense in the league, considering he plays with no shooters, all these things. Like, I don't think he had that stretch. I think he progressed and got there, but I think he pretty clearly hit his worst case scenario. But I want to talk about this more in the abstract than the specific here for a moment. I didn't have a ton of exposure to Scoot coming into his NBA career. I wasn't watching the G League Ignite. I watched some maybe YouTube videos of getting ready for him and all that, but like I wasn't I wasn't like familiar with his game. I saw him play the game against Victor Wembanyama, and then part of the next one before he got hurt in that showcase in Vegas against with the G League Ignite, and I saw him play in Summer League. And in those games, he was excellent. I really believed, and the hype around him coming out of the draft was really, from the draft folks I trust, and also maybe just me wanting to believe, more optimistic than I typically am. I was really high on him, and then sitting through his 62 games this season, my perception has changed. Not that I think he's like bad. I don't mean to say that by any means. I don't think he was good this year. I'd be somewhat surprised if he makes an all rookie team. Like I don't think he was good. I don't. And I think that's fine. It doesn't define your career and all those things. And I think, the way I care about this stuff is maybe not like awards like that. Like Tyler Zeller made second team all rookie. Go get it, dog. And if Scoot does make a team, I'm not going to be like, he doesn't deserve it. I just don't think he will. It's fine. But the person who recorded that video back in September was really optimistic about what Scoot could be. I don't think I've shifted all of that much. I don't think, I had placed some pretty high expectations on Scoots in that video part that I cut out. I said that like he should be. I don't think he can win Rookie of the Year because I think Wemby's gonna win it. Even in September, it's like I was a believer in the Wemby hype, but like that, the best case scenario is that he's in the conversation, right? And he's not. He wasn't. He's not close to it. But that I don't think that a down rookie year and what I saw from Scoot drastically changes what I believe his ceiling can be. I think what it changes is my confidence that he hits that ceiling. Like, if being a multi-time All-NBA guard is like a 95% outcome for Scoot, I just think it's a lot less likely he hits that top 5%. Like I think he's a lot less likely to do so. I don't think that where his ceiling has changed at all, because I think he still has gifts. Like he's just a good passer, and that's not always in the like Jason Williams throw it off your elbow highlight pass. I just mean like he moves the ball to the right spot because he understands how to pass. Sometimes Scoot's best passing games are games where he just says, catch it, make a move to get someone halfway off balance, and just throw the ball to the right guy who can take an open shot. Like make a pass to someone. He's a lot of times passing to non-shooters on this roster, quite frankly, but like making just the correct play, and his ability just to make the correct play, coupled with his some physical gifts that he maybe hasn't totally figured out how to use in the league. I still think he can be pretty good, but the progression to get there becomes much more magnified now because his weaknesses are very clear. I got 2 numbers for you. I want to share those in the second segment. 2 numbers that I think define Scoot's season and my personal concerns about where Scoot is. I'm not panicked by any means. Like I said, I still kind of think he's going to be okay. The person who was so optimistic in September is not the person who's talking to you in April right now. And like our perception changes so dramatically with these things that I might be a victim of the moment. But I want to tell you how I landed here with 2 numbers that I think are the most defining numbers of Scoot's rookie season. I'll share them with you in the third segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, let me tell you about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. And right now, you've got the NBA playoffs, you got the NHL playoffs, you got baseball in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. All on an app that is safe and secure and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. That's FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. This next segment is brought to us by BetterHelp. I think therapy can be really valuable for all of us because there's sometimes you just need an opportunity to get something off your chest, whether that's big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you, and it's important to let that out, whatever it might be, especially to someone who's unbiased, a neutral third party. So whether you're dealing with an acute traumatic event, a major trauma in your life that you want to work through and talk to a therapist, or if you're just trying to do the routine maintenance to make yourself function better or live a life that is smoother, therapy can be really valuable. What a therapist is going to help you do is develop the tools, or at least start to figure out what work needs to be done to develop the tools to be the best version of yourself. Therapy can be different for everyone, and like I said, it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. And you can visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. There's 2 numbers that I think define Scoot's season, and they have changed the way I feel about him from being pretty confident that he could be an all-star on his rookie contract to saying, okay, there's some things he needs. There is a path that he must walk to reach his ceiling. These are the next steps in his progression, and the 2 numbers that you need to know are 42.9 and 14. Scoot Henderson this season shot 42.9% on layups. 42.9% on layups. According to Clean the Glass, he was in the bottom 10th percentile for point guards finishing at the rim. And that number, 42.9%, comes from Basketball Reference. It's really bad. It's not the number you want to see. 42.9% of his layups. Scoot Henderson has the ability to get to the rim for the most part. He has the ability to get into the paint. He's maybe not as good as I thought he might be, but he can get himself there. He cannot cash in when he gets there. 42.9% on layups. 14 is the total number of dunks that Scoot Henderson made this season. 14 in 62 games. I thought this dude was about to be a highlight reel. A highlight reel. Like, I thought one of the fun parts about this season was that Scoot, even if he struggled, like even if he did shoot 38% from the floor, that he was going to be just a joy, because he was going to put together every so often these type of breakaway windmills and cram on someone when he gets baseline and gets a step, and it's just like, and he was going to have these moments. He dunked 14 times in 62 games. It's basically 2 a month. He basically dunked twice a month during his rookie season. Boof. That's, to me, that's where his game, that's the part of his game that defines what he becomes. It's twofold. One, it's explosiveness. Maybe he doesn't have the sort of really explosive blow-by guy speed that I thought he would have. But some of that might be because of the way he gets guarded. Guys sag way, way off of him. And if he develops more of a pull-up jump shot from the mid-range, he struggled in that sort of 3 to 10 feet floater range a great deal this year. Shot 31% in between 3 feet and 10 feet, which is kind of those like little push shots and pull-up shots inside the foul line. He can get better there. That can be I think that can end up being a strength for him, because I think he has the touch to do it. A lot of that is footwork. I think his feet get a little bit busy, and when his feet are busy and they're not under him, he takes terrible shots. When his feet are under them, he shoots with balance and strength. When he shoots on balance from the inside, he looks a lot better. The finishing is another thing. He doesn't ever use his left hand around the rim. He's super, super right hand dominant. He wouldn't be the first player to be like really favor their dominant hand. Plenty of good players really favor their dominant hand. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but if you can't make right-handed layups, it certainly makes your inability to attempt left-handed layups stand out even more. But the explosiveness, I think if he were to develop some pull-up shooting skills, either as a floater or as a jump shooter, and he shot better from three as the season went on, then he will get the ability to get himself into the paint, a walking paint touch, as Michael from September called him. He could be back at that level. I think that's there. I worry that maybe the explosiveness isn't quite there, but the finishing, the touch, that is just skill work. Guys can improve finishing. That is something you can improve. Your athleticism, like vis-a-vis the best athletes in the world, relative to the best athletes in the world that you're playing in the league, like we might have just been wrong about the type of athlete he was, but there's some skill stuff he can improve. And I think those things, if he can be a little more explosive, or he can develop some skills that allow him to get more space, he can be a player. But I'm not as worried about the 3-point shot as some folks are. The thing I'm worried about is the finishing around the rim. If you can't finish around the rim, what is he? Like, what kind of basketball player is he? Because he's not big. Like, he's very broad shoulders and he has giant hands. He's not small for a point guard by any means, but he is small for an NBA player. Like, he's normal size relative to his position, but small relative to the league, because he plays the position where the short guys play. And if he can't finish around the rim, what is he? And if he doesn't get dunks, what is he? So for me, the steps for Scoot to reach his ceiling start with making layups. They start with scoring around the rim. And then it'll move out to those final 25 games or whatever, when he shot 35% from three, final 19 games when he shot 35% from three. Like, if he's a right around league average 3-point shooter, or just below at 35%, I think he's fine. Like, I think that number is fine. But he's going to have to get himself into the paint, and he's going to have to make layups, because if he doesn't get easy ones, then the chances that he can become an excellent player are very low. He can still be solid. Like, I feel like Scoot Henderson his floor still remains like a long-term NBA player. I think he's going to be a long-term NBA player regardless. It's just like, is he Ricky Rubio? Is he Atlanta's Ricky Rubio? Is he just Ricky Rubio from Atlanta? Like, Ricky Rubio had a nice little career. I think most people really like Ricky Rubio, but like, Ricky Rubio from Atlanta is not going to save the franchise. And I don't think Scoot necessarily needs to be the savior of the franchise, but if he is specifically not the savior of the franchise, it certainly changes the calculation for the next 3 to 7 years. I still feel relatively confident that Scoot's going to be a good NBA player, but I don't think he can be the best version of himself if he doesn't clean up those weaknesses. The more explosiveness, I think, comes from a little more confidence, a little better jump shooting, a little better understanding of being able to read defenses in layers. I think Scoot is the playmaking is going to be there for him. He seems to love basketball. I think that's a really fun thing about him. You know, he talks about if he might be traveling the world this summer, but wherever he's going to be, he's going to be a gym. Because if there's a gym, he said, if there's a gym, I'm with it. If there's a hoop, I'm with it. Like, he's going to play. He said he's going to spend a bunch of time in LA this summer and playing pickup runs. I think him just playing against high level competition and getting more seasoning is incredibly important for him. His ceiling still remains pretty high. His floor has just been exposed as pretty low. I think that's what's changed for me and with Scoot. For me, in regards to Scoot. The finishing and the explosiveness are the two biggest things for me. I think the shooting and the playmaking, I think the shooting is like, I'm just not super worried about the shooting because I don't think he needs to be like an elite lights out jump shooter to be a good player. He does need to be a better, like, floater range shooter, and he needs to be a much better finisher. And his decision making, which I think can just sort of naturally improve by seeing more NBA basketball, will get there. It's like the turnovers. It's like young guys turn the ball over a lot. I don't worry about that too much. Look at the list of the dudes who are all-time leaders in turnovers. They're stars. To some extent, it just means you have the ball a lot. This obviously Scoot turned the ball over more than you would want, but he had, it's like that's going to happen. I think what's changed for me, to go back to sort of the philosophical element, is that I have seen the low points and I have yet to see the high points. And the high points have been few and far between, right? I still think the high points are there. I think they're through the fog and on the other side. But year 2 is the year for Scoot to come in with a little more control in his decision-making, a way better command at finishing layups around the rim, and just a better understanding of what NBA defenses are going to do. Tendencies of defenders, tendencies of help defenders and primary defenders, so you can read the guy in front of you and read that help defense, and the ability to process those things quickly and at full speed. Scoot is capable of it. We've just seen that he is probably further along than the Blazers wanted him to be, right? You don't start him game 1, night 1 if you thought he was like that far away. I think it was a surprise to the franchise. But perhaps in year 2, he can make a leap and he can surprise us yet again in the other direction. That is going to do it for today's show. Come back for tomorrow's show. Mark from Locked On UConn is going to join the program. We're going to talk about all of the UConn draft eligible players, Donovan Clingan, Stephen Castle, Alex Caravan. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. You're not going to want to miss that one. And then Friday's show, Keandre from Hoop Intellect is going to join the program. 2 good ones to end the week. So come back and listen to those. Tell your friends about the podcast. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.